I stood on my porch with my arms folded, watching the craziness happen. The main road into Pinewood Estates was blocked. Big cement blocks and heavy trucks were everywhere. No one could get in or out. There was no warning, no message, just a big stop. Linda Harper, the bossy HOA president, was banging on my gate like she lost her mind. Her face was red with anger. Behind her, a bunch of neighbors looked stuck and confused. Some were yelling, others were filming on their phones. "You can't do this," Linda yelled, so loud it hurt my ears. "You're trapping a whole neighborhood." I leaned forward, super calm, and said, "This road is part of my land. Linda, you shouldn't have tried to steal it." Her eyes got small and angry. Her hands were shaking as she grabbed her phone. "I'm calling 911. This is against the law," she shouted. I smiled and said, "Go ahead," because I knew it was totally legal. But before we got to this crazy day with cops and blocked roads, let me tell you how it all started. I'm Ethan Caldwell, 43 years old, a divorced dad with a daughter in college. I live quietly on a big 12-acre ranch in Texas that I got from my uncle. My family has owned this land for almost 100 years. Generations of us raised cows, fixed fences, and even had burials here. When my uncle died, I left my city job in Houston to take over the ranch. I still work from home on my computer, and every morning I feed a few goats to relax. But that piece ended the day I met Linda. Linda Harper is 55, has shiny white hair, a pearl necklace she always wears, and a really sharp tongue. She was the strict leader of Pinewood Estates, a fancy gated neighborhood with huge houses built. 5 years ago, right next to my land, or at least they thought it was their land. Here's the wild part. The only road into Pinewood, Crestwood Drive, goes across a small part of my ranch. I own the land under that road. The builders had a deal with my uncle to use the road, but when he passed away, that deal ended. Nobody noticed except me. At first, I let it go. The road only touched a little bit of my land. I thought, live and let live. But Linda had other ideas. It started with a letter typed in a snobby font that looked like a PTA mom made it. "Dear Mr. Caldwell, we saw some ugly buildings and rusty trucks on your land. Because of our HOA cleanup rules, remove them in 14 days, or we'll report you." She was talking about my old barn. It's been there for over 100 years, way older than her neighborhood. I laughed, threw the letter aside, and went back to work. A week later, a sheriff showed up looking awkward. "Sir, I need to check something, but this isn't HOA land. It'll probably go nowhere." And he was right. It didn't go anywhere. But Linda wasn't giving up. She hated being told no. 2 months later, the county office called me. Someone you can guess who filed papers, saying part of my land was zoned wrong and should be used by Pinewood for neighborhood stuff. I was super mad, so I hired a land lawyer named Rachel Monroe. She was smart and strong when she needed to be. We looked over my land papers and the old road deal. Rachel smiled and said, "Ethan, you can shut down that road today. They have no right to use it." But I didn't act right away. I wrote a nice letter to the HOA, offering them a new deal to use the road for a small yearly fee. Linda's answer. She stood at the gate with a megaphone, yelling that I was blackmailing them and saying I was a danger to hard-working families. That's when I had enough. I gave them a 30-day notice, signed and official. They ignored it. So I hired a work crew. At 6 a.m. on a Friday, they came with big trucks and blocked the road, Crestwood Drive. There was no way out. Linda ran out in her bathrobe, screaming until her voice cracked. Cars lined up. People shouted, "How do we go to work?" "What?" About school, I walked to the road, hands in my pockets. Linda ran at me, yelling, "You don't know who you're messing with." "Oh, I do," I said. "You're the one who tried to steal my land." She called 911. I waited, knowing I did nothing wrong. The sheriff came. They looked tired. Deputy Martinez took my papers, read them, and nodded. "Looks all legal, Mrs. Harper," he said. "Do you have any proof this road is yours?" Linda gasped. "But it's been used for years. It's everyone's road." Martinez shook. His head, using a road, doesn't mean you own it without a legal deal. Linda looked shocked. "So, you're not arresting him?" Martinez sighed. "Nope, he's just using his rights." He turned to the crowd. "There's a gravel road behind your homes. You can use that," Linda shouted. "That road's full of mud. Our SUVs can't go there." Someone laughed. Speak for yourself, Linda. I used it last week. It works fine if you don't drive crazy. People laughed. Linda's face turned super red. That night, a storm came, and so did more trouble. At midnight, my security camera showed a black SUV near the blocked road. 2 people tried to move the smaller blocks but couldn't. I called the sheriff and sent the video to Rachel. They're lucky they didn't break anything. She said, "You could sue." But it got worse. 3 days later, the county said someone filed an emergency request to take my land and make it a public road. They didn't say who filed it, but it smelled like Linda. I drove to the office, super mad. They want to take my land for a rich neighborhood's shortcut. The county didn't say yes or no. They just planned a public hearing. Rachel warned me. When someone like Linda loses control, they get sneaky. She was right. That night, I saw tire marks in my goat field. Someone cut my fence and drove through, scaring my goats. One goat hurt its leg. The same SUV was on my camera again. I sent the video to the sheriff, but they were slow to act. Linda had friends in high places, so I hired 2 retired soldiers for security. I put up no trespassing signs and more cameras. At the public hearing, the room was packed. People from Pinewood, news reporters, and locals filled the hall. Linda wore a red suit and played the victim, saying, "I was putting families in danger." I stood my ground. This isn't about safety, it's about control. I offered them a deal. They said no. Now they want to take my land. People whispered. One neighbor yelled, "You started this war, Linda." The board took a break, then said no to taking my land, but they gave the HOA 10 days to appeal. 2 days later, I got a letter from a law office. It said, my land papers were fake, and I didn't really own the road. My hands shook. I called Rachel. "They're getting dirty," I said. She replied, "This is a sneaky HOA. Trick and fuse the records until you quit or run out of money." We looked at my uncle's will and the old land map. It proved I owned the road. But Linda didn't stop. She held a press meeting saying I was a fake landowner who raised goats just to avoid taxes. The local newspaper loved it. Strangers glared. At me in town, someone spray-painted HOA justice on my fence. Then my internet stopped working. Someone had faked a disconnect request in my name. Definitely Linda's doing. But some people started to doubt her. Margaret, an older lady, and Tyler, a young dad, came to me privately and said sorry. They said Linda didn't speak for them. The night before the court meeting, someone broke into my barn. They ruined the goat feed and spray-painted "Open the road or else." I sat on my porch with my grandpa's rifle. Not to shoot, just as a warning. In court, Rachel showed my papers, the land map, and videos of Linda yelling. The judge listened and tossed out the HOA's lies. He warned them not to bother me again. Linda stormed out, but then something huge happened. A man handed me a folder outside the courthouse. "She's hiding something big," he whispered, then disappeared. Inside were emails showing Linda tried to sell HOA land to a builder called Horizon using a fake company name. That's fraud, a serious crime. Rachel's eyes sparkled. "This is jail stuff." We checked the emails with an expert. Linda had a meeting with Horizon next week to get paid before losing power. We had to tell the HOA board, so I hosted a barbecue at my ranch. I passed out flyers saying I had the truth. Lots of neighbors came. I grilled burgers, goats walked around, and I showed them the emails. Margaret stood up. Linda said that land was protected. Tyler showed bills that proved Linda was taking HOA money. People got mad. The neighborhood was falling apart. Linda tried to get a restraining order against me, saying I caused all the trouble. In court, 40 neighbors backed me up with proof. The judge tossed her case. Linda screamed, "You're all fools!" A county agent followed her out of court. She had gone too far. Then Horizon filed to take the back road, trying to trap Pinewood. "Completely," Rachel gasped. "Linda's trying to make them beg for her deal." I filed an urgent paper to block both roads until the case was over. If approved, Pinewood would be stuck. Linda disappeared. Her house was empty. Her car was gone. After 3 days, even her friends were whispering. Rachel thought she was hiding or running. People from Horizon came to Pinewood, acting like they owned the place. Tyler called me. Linda promised them land she didn't own. I checked the county records. Linda had filed fake papers to sell 8 acres of land without anyone's okay. That's plain fraud. Rachel gave the proof to the lawyer's office. The HOA board had no leader. They begged for help. I helped them send legal letters to Horizon and freeze Linda's money. My roadblock plan got approved. We shut down the back road. Pinewood was stuck. But neighbors thanked me, saying it gave them time to think. Horizon's boss, Victor Crane, came to my gate. "We put money in based on Linda's promise," he said, smirking. "She lied." I said, "Sutha, HOA if you want to stay off my land." The next day, Linda was found in Nevada at a spa using a fake name. Someone saw her from the news and called the police. She was arrested for fraud and other crimes. Horizon sued the HOA for $2.5 million. Everyone freaked out. But I brought neighbors together to fight back. Rachel sued Horizon too, saying they interfered. Victor laughed. "Dangerous move, Miss Monroe," she said. "We have the truth." Things got quiet, but not for long. I found loose bolts on the roadblocks and a broken security camera. A trail camera showed Victor sneaking in. With tools, we reported him to the cops. Some rich neighbors wanted to make peace with Horizon to avoid lawsuits. Rachel and I pushed back. We showed the video of Victor and Linda's fraud. On voting day, Pinewood said no to Horizon. They supported our lawsuit. Horizon's case was thrown out. Victor was now being investigated. Linda was still in legal trouble but fading. The roadblock stayed up, a big sign that we'd won. Then Linda tried one last trick. A letter from her lawyer offered me $750,000 for road access. Rachel said Horizon was using Linda again. I told everyone at a town meeting. I read the letter out loud. "This road is part of my family's story," I said. "No money can buy that." Everyone cheered. The news went crazy. Rancher says no to $750,000 offer. I took down the barricades, fixed the road, and added lights and new gravel. Then I gave the HOA a 30-year deal to use it, but they can't build anything on it. They threw a big party. Kids played, neighbors grilled food. I left my windows open that night and slept peacefully. Months later, Rachel called laughing. Linda is now suing Horizon, saying they broke their deal and hurt her feelings. Wow. Then I got a handwritten letter from Linda. "You beat me fair," she wrote. "I lost everything. Maybe I needed to. If you ever sell, don't let them build. I'm sorry I kept the letter, but never replied." I stepped onto my porch. The road, once full of drama, was quiet. Peace had finally come, even if it wasn't perfect. One thing's for sure, never mess with a rancher who knows his land